Hola amigos, sorry, let me make sure I'm recording. Oh, I am. Hola amigos, buenos días, buenos días. We're continuing with our lectures for lesson 8, el capítulo 8. Today we're going to look at la sección 2 del capítulo 8, chapter 8, section 2. And we're talking about preterite conjugations of three verbs in particular. They're a little bit irregular, that's why we've lumped these three particular verbs together in our continued study of the preterite tense. Remember, I've got up here on the board, we're in the preterite tense. Remember the preterite past. There were two symbols that I gave you to help us distinguish between the two past tenses in Español, in Spanish, right? And remember the preterite past. Do you remember the symbol? The symbol is a dot. The preterite past describes past events that can be described like a dot on a timeline, an event that happened. It's over. It's done with. It's never going to happen again, okay? Meaning that particular event. It's a dot on our timeline, represents a completed action, a completed event, okay? So we're going to talk about these three verbs in particular, the verb ser, the verb ir, and the verb dar. You remember ser? ¿Cómo se dice ser en inglés? To be. That's one of the to be verbs. So in the preterite tense, this would be like saying I was, not I am, or you are, or he, she is. That's present tense. Or in the preterite tense, I was, you were, he, she was, we were, they were. Preterite, okay? The verb ir, you remember cómo se dice ir en inglés? To go, that's an easy one to remember. And again, in the present tense, I go, you go, he goes, she goes, we go. Now, we're in the preterite tense, past tense. This would be like I went, you went, he, she went, we went, they went, okay? And then last but not least, the verb dar. You remember, ¿cómo se dice dar en inglés? To give, to give. So again, in the preterite tense, the past tense, I gave, you gave, he, she gave, we gave, they gave, okay? Now, this isn't going to be a very long video because this concept is pretty easy. If you want to follow along, estamos en el libro, en la página 235, en la página 235. There's a chart at the top. I can't really write it on the board any better than it's written in the book, this chart, right? But I'm going to replicate it because I want to show you something very, very unique about this particular concept. Let's start with the verb ser. Let's conjugate the verb ser in the preterite tense. Was, I was, you were, he, she was, we were, they were. Take a look at the chart, right? ¿Cómo se dice I was? Yo what? Yo fui. Yo fui. How about you were? Tú what? Fuiste. Muy bien. Huh? How about he, she, or usted? What he, she was, or the formal usted were. Él, ella, usted, what? Fue. Muy bien. Nosotros, we were. Nosotros, what? Fuimos. And last but not least, they were, or you all were. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, what? Fueron. Okay? There are a lot of sample sentences in the book, as you're seeing and hearing these verbs used in context. But there you have the preterite conjugations of the verb ser. Yo fui, tú fuiste, él, ella, usted fue, nosotros fuimos, ellos, ellas, ustedes fueron. Okay? The verb ser and the preterite. Now let's go to the verb ir. The verb ir. Okay? Let's conjugate the verb ir in the preterite. I went, you went, he, she went, we went, they went. ¿Cómo se dice I went? Yo what? Fui. How about you went? Tú what? Fuiste. You're recognizing anything here? How about he went, she went, or the you formal went? Él, ella, usted what? Have you seen it yet? The pattern? Doesn't take a rocket surgeon. I'm just saying. How about we went? Nosotros what? Fuimos. Huh? You're probably starting to wonder. And last but not least, they went or you all went. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, what? Fueron. Wait a minute. The preterite conjugations of the verbs ser and ir appear to be identical. They are the same exact words. Look, magic of technology. me scoot these over. Aren't they the same words? Right? Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron. They're the same exact words. How could that be? How could that be? We have two verbs that are conjugated exactly the same in the preterite tense. How could that possibly be? How are we going to be able to tell the difference between the two verbs? The conjugations anyway, right? Or the meanings of between the two verbs. Well, it's easy, right? It's the same idea we've been using all along. How do we tell a particular meaning or distinguish a particular meaning or understanding of something? It's the context. We pay attention to the context in which it's being used. For example, even in English, I wouldn't say something like, yesterday I was to the store. No, you'd say, yesterday I went to the store. You see? Or you wouldn't say something like, let's see, yesterday we was nice, or we went nice, but today we're not. No, yesterday we were nice, but today we're not. Yeah, anyway, that was kind of a silly sentence, but you get what I'm saying. Based on the context, okay, we can distinguish if we're talking about having been or having gone somewhere, right? What we were, or what I was, or what he, she was, or you were, based, or as opposed to where I went, or where we went, or where you went, you see? So based on the context, we can tell if we're talking about having been something or having gone somewhere, you see? So it doesn't matter that they're the same exact words. We'll read some sample sentences here in a second, just to further illustrate this point. But let's take a look at our last verb, the verb dar, conjugated in the preterite tense. Remember, the verb dar means to give. Now we're talking about having gived or gave in the past tense. ¿Cómo se dice I gave en español? Yo what? So I'm going to scoot this up just a little bit so we can read it a little bit easier in line with everything else. I gave. Yo what? Di. Yo di. Huh? How about you gave? Tú diste. Huh? Muy bien. He, she gave, or you formal gave. Él, ella, usted, what? Dio. Huh? Dio. Huh? Muy bien. How about we gave? Nosotros, what? Dimos. Dimos. And they gave, or you all gave. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, what? Dieron. Okay? So there are our conjugations of the verb dar in the preterite. Di, diste, dio, dimos, dieron. Okay? And these are irregular. It's obvious to see how the verbs ser and ir are irregular. We've got this crazy letter F coming from who knows where. We recognize the conjugative endings, perhaps, maybe, minus accent marks here, there, wherever. But then the verb dar, it's an AR verb, but you notice these are not the AR verb endings in the preterite. These are not the AR preterite endings. They're taking on seemingly the ER, IR endings, even though it's an AR verb. So that would explain the irregularity of the verb dar in the preterite. But anyway, easy enough to remember. Easy enough to remember. So there you have the verbs ser, ir, and dar conjugated in the preterite. Let's take a look at some of these sample sentences so you can see what I mean about using context to distinguish. Just below the chart, there's some sample sentences. There's one that says, yesterday was Lucia's birthday, right? Yesterday was Lucia's birthday, right? Let's read the Spanish translation. Ayer fue el cumpleaños de Lucia, no? Ayer fue el cumpleaños de Lucia, no? Yesterday was Lucia. You wouldn't say yesterday went. It's the same word, the two verbs, same conjugate. You wouldn't say yesterday went her birthday. No, yesterday was her birthday. So you can tell the context, right? Look at the response. Yes, Ana and I went to her house and gave her the presents. Sí, Ana y yo fuimos a su casa y le dimos los regalos. We went to her house and we gave her the gifts. Again, you wouldn't say we was to her house. Well, you might say that if you grew up in the ghetto. Nothing against growing up in the ghetto. I'm just saying that would be poor English. We was to her. No, we went to her house, right? Nosotros fuimos a su casa. Look at the next sentence. Did you go to the party that Sarah gave? ¿Tú fuiste a la fiesta que dio Sara? Did you go to the party that Sarah gave? You wouldn't say, did you was to the party? Nah. That's how we can tell. Did you go? Right? You went. Fuiste. It's the verb ir because of the context. You wouldn't say did you was to, no, did you go to the, you didn't was to the party, you went to the party. You see? And then last but not least, yes, I went. It was the best party of the year. Sí, fui. Yo fui. Fue la mejor fiesta del año. Yes, I went. It was. I went. It was the best party of the year. You wouldn't say, I was to the party. It went the best party of the year. No, I went to the party. Yo fui a la fiesta. It was. Fue la mejor fiesta del año. So again, it doesn't matter that ser and ir, these two verbs in particular, have the same exact words. It is by the context that we can tell the difference. All right? So that's essentially it. I told you it was going to be a short video. That's it. Work on the homework, get some practice. Let us know if you have any questions, and we will see you next time. Gracias. Adios.